Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've got some really fascinating stuff to get into today, something one of you actually pointed us towards. And yeah, we're excited to dig in.
Absolutely. We're diving into Chapter 3 of Never Split the Difference. It's called Don't Feel Their Pain, Label It. Which, right off the bat, that title kind of makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. Because your first thought might be, well, shouldn't you try to feel their pain?
Yeah.
Connect emotionally. But this suggests something different. Step back, identify the emotion. It's almost the opposite of what you might expect, right?
Yeah, it's definitely counterintuitive to a lot of the traditional negotiation advice. For ages, it was all about the poker face. Keep emotions locked down. That old idea of separate the people from the problem.
Right, separate the people. But this chapter argues against that.
Strongly.
What?
The core point is, look, in many situations, especially high-stakes ones, you can't separate the people from the problem. Why? Because often their emotions are the problem, or at least a huge part of it.
Okay, that makes sense. When someone's really emotional, angry, scared, whatever, it's hard for them to think straight, isn't it? Communication just breaks down.
Exactly. Rational thought kind of goes out the window. So instead of trying to push those emotions aside, this chapter says, no, good negotiators actually spot them, identify them, and then, crucially, work to influence them.
And that leads us straight to this key technique, labeling. So when the book talks about labeling emotions, what does that actually mean in practice?
Okay, so labeling here means putting a precise name on the emotion you're seeing in the other person, and importantly, being aware of your own emotions too. Then you talk about these feelings calmly. It's about using emotion as a tool, not letting it just derail everything.
It mentions a parallel with therapy, which I thought was really interesting. The negotiator as a kind of psychotherapist.
Yeah, that's a great analogy they use. Think about how a therapist works. They probe, reflect feelings back, right, to help the patient understand themselves better, maybe change behavior. Well, the idea is that negotiators can do something similar. Listen really carefully, watch the nonverbals, and maybe talk a bit less, actually. Create space for the other person's feelings.
That therapist's couch image really helps picture it. But, I can imagine some people thinking, isn't that a bit touchy-feely for negotiation?
Oh, for sure. And the chapter anticipates that reaction. It pushes back by saying, look, understanding their emotional state isn't soft. It's smart. It gives you an advantage. Knowledge is power, right? Knowing what's driving them gives you more influence.
Okay, so it's strategic, which brings us to tactical empathy. How's that different from just, regular empathy or sympathy?
Good question. So the book defines empathy as recognizing someone else's perspective and then vocalizing that recognition. It's about understanding where they're coming from. Crucially, it's not sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry for them, agreeing with them, maybe.
Right. So tactical empathy is more targeted.
Exactly. Tactical empathy is understanding their feelings and mindset right now in this moment, but also thinking ahead. What emotions might block an agreement later? What emotions could help pave the way? It's emotional intelligence applied strategically with a goal in mind.
And the chapter kicks off with that intense story, the 1998 Harlem apartment standoff. Can you walk us through that? It really shows this in action.
Yeah, it's a powerful example. You've got armed fugitives barricaded high up in an apartment. The author's the main negotiator. Big problem right away. No phone line.
So for 6 hours straight, he's talking through the door.
6 hours just talking through a closed door. What was he saying?
He used this calm, sort of soothing voice like a late-night DJ, he says. And he kept repeating phrases focused on their likely feelings. Things like, it looks like you don't want to come out. Or, it seems like you worry that if you open the door, we'll come in with guns blazing. And it looks like you don't want to go back to jail.
So he's naming their fears, labeling them, basically. Exactly. He's labeling their perspective, their likely anxieties. And for all those 6 hours, silence from inside, nothing.
Wow. So what happened?
Eventually, a sniper spots movement. The door cracks open slowly, and one by one, they all surrender. And later, when asked why they came out, they said things like, you calmed us down, and we figured you weren't going away, so we came out.
That's incredible. So his consistent labeling, that vocalizing of their fears, somehow built trust, even without a conversation.
It seems so. It de-escalated things. It showed he understood their world, even if he didn't agree with their actions. It connects to that idea of tactical empathy, understanding the counterpart's emotional reality. The book even mentions veteran cops using similar intuitive techniques for years.
It even gets into the brain science a bit, right? Neural resonance.
Yeah, fascinating stuff from Princeton. Basically, when communication works well, people's brains actually start to sync up. Good listeners can even anticipate what the speaker will say next. It shows there's a real physical basis for this connection empathy builds. It encourages you, the listener, to really try and visualize the other person's situation.
It really grounds it. But the book acknowledges this isn't always easy, right? People push back, like the Hillary Clinton example.
Definitely. Some see empathy as weakness, especially in tough negotiations. But the key point the book makes is tactical empathy isn't about being nice or agreeing. It's a tool, a powerful one. It's about understanding the other side to find a way forward. Think Sun Tzu, know your enemy, or in this case, your counterpart.
Okay, so let's drill down into the labeling and action part. Back to Harlem, how is that specific labeling done?
Well, he identified the big, predictable fears. Fear of getting killed, fear of going back to jail. Then he voiced them using those specific phrases. It looks like, it seems like. Labeling validates the emotion by naming it. It kind of creates this shortcut to feeling understood without needing all the backstory.
And there's that point about how labeling negative stuff actually makes it less scary, that brain study.
Right, the Matthew Lieberman study. When you put a label on a fear, activity goes down in the amygdala, the fear center, and up in the rational thinking parts of the brain. Naming the fear helps tame it, basically.
But it's not just blurting things out. There's an art to it. Rules.
Absolutely. It's a skill. You need the right form, the right delivery. A common worry is, won't they get mad if I tell them how they feel? But the book says, actually, people rarely even notice you're consciously doing it if it's done well.
So what's step one in doing it well?
Detect the emotion accurately. Pay attention to everything, the words they use, sure, but also the music, their tone of voice and the dance, their body language. Subtle things, like a flat tone when they say, I'm fine, or fidgeting feet. Those cues often reveal more than the words.
Like noticing the slight frown even when they say something positive.
Yeah.
Okay, so you spot the emotion, then what?
Then you label it out loud. Use those neutral observational phrases. It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. The book warns against saying, I'm hearing that, because the I can make people defensive.
Okay. It seems like.
Yeah.
And does it matter if it's a statement or a question?
Not hugely, apparently, just the inflection. But starting that way usually gets a better response than a simple yes-no. And hey, if they disagree, that's fine. You can just say, okay, I didn't say that's what it was, just that it seemed like that. It keeps the door open.
Got it. And the last really important rule after you state the label.
Silence. Just be quiet. Let the label sink in. Give them space. Don't jump in with another question. Let them respond. Reveal more. That silence is powerful.
Right. So labeling isn't just this isolated trick. It fits into a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Neutralizing the negative, reinforcing the positive.
Exactly. It's a tactic in a larger strategy. The goal is to kind of nudge their inner voice towards feeling understood, towards trust. The book talks about presenting behavior what you see on the surface, like that grumpy grandpa.
Ah, yeah, the cranky grandpa example.
Right. The crankiness is presenting, but the underlying feeling might be loneliness, feeling ignored. Effective labeling tries to get at that underlying emotion.
So labeling the underlying negative diffuses it, and labeling the positive reinforces it.
You got it. And it specifically calls out anger as usually unhelpful. It clouds judgment. So don't ignore negative feelings, but use labels to gently draw them out so they can be acknowledged instead of just acted upon.
Like that story where the author ticked off the Canadian FBI guy?
Yeah. And then use that self-deprecating label, bless me, Father, for I have sinned, totally disarm the situation. Right. Or telling hostage families, I know you must be scared. Or even admitting a mistake with, look, I'm an asshole. It acknowledges the negative dynamic directly.
So for the grandpa, instead of reacting to the crankiness, you might say, it seems like you feel like we don't pay enough attention.
Exactly. Label the sadness or loneliness, and then maybe follow up with a positive like, for us, this time together is really special. It shifts the whole energy.
Yeah.
The TJ story from the Washington Redskins is another great example of this in business.
Oh, yeah, the season tickets.
Yeah.
The CFO's script was just demanding payment.
Right, totally aggressive. But TJ changed it. Used your Washington Redskins, acknowledged the tough times, invited a conversation about their unique situation. Small changes, but huge impact.
Because it showed empathy, labeled the negative feelings around delinquency.
Exactly. And it worked. More payment plans, less tension. It showed understanding the emotion leads to better practical outcomes.
Which ties into that phrase, clear the road before advertising the destination. What does that mean?
It's about dealing with the emotional obstacles first. Remember the amygdala, the fear response. Labeling fears quickly interrupts that, builds safety, clears the path before you try to propose solutions or talk about where you want to go.
So in Harlem, saying, it seems like you don't want to go back to jail, clears that fear before suggesting surrender.
Precisely. It addresses the immediate barrier. And sometimes labeling those negatives can cause this sudden shift, make people more open. But like Harlem showed, clearing that road can take time. 6 hours in that case. Layers of fear.
The Girl Scout fundraiser story really hit this home too, finding the real obstacle.
Yeah, that was brilliant. The fundraiser first labeled the hesitation about the projects. I'm sensing some hesitation. That got the donor talking about wanting to fund programming directly.
But that still wasn't it, was it?
No. Even the right type of project wasn't enough. The breakthrough came with the second label. It seems that you are really passionate about this and want to find the right project reflecting the life-changing experiences the Girl Scouts gave you.
Hitting the nostalgia, the personal connection.
Exactly. The donor just said, "You understand me," and wrote the check. The real obstacle wasn't the project details. It was the need to feel understood, to have her own experience acknowledged. Labeling uncovered that core emotional driver.
That leads perfectly into the accusation audit. It sounds intense.
It is, a little. It's basically listing out every bad thing the other side might be thinking or could say about you. Think of that 60 seconds or she dies exercise in class. People are terrified, right?
Yeah.
So the instructor says up front, it's going to be horrible. By labeling their fear, he diffuses it a bit, makes it less daunting. More people volunteer.
It's like saying, I don't want to sound like an asshole.
Yeah.
But instead of denying it, you actually name the potential negative perception up front.
Kind of, but even more direct. Like a lawyer listing all the charges in the opening statement to take the sting out. You list all the potential accusations they might have against you.
And the Anna story with ABC Corp shows how powerful this is. They were going to have to cut ABC's pay.
Right. A really tough situation. So before the meeting, Anna and Mark brainstormed everything ABC might accuse them of. You're a big, bad prime contractor. You broke your promise. You didn't warn us.
And they practiced labeling these accusations beforehand.
Yep. Things like, you're going to think we're the bad guys here, or it seems you feel this work was promised.
And in the meeting,
Anna opened by stating ABC's likely grievances right away, using those labels. We know you might feel we treated you unfairly, that you believe you were promised this work. And the ABC folks just nodded. It immediately changed the dynamic.
wow. So even when she had to deliver the bad news, she could preemptively label the big bad prime accusation.
She did. It sounds like you think we're the big bad prime contractor. And Angela from ABC said, no, we don't think that. It cleared the air. They could then talk about the actual contract issues more collaboratively. In the end, ABC even helped figure out how to make the cuts work. Anna's company saved money, and Angela actually thanked them for being upfront.
Anna's reaction, holy crap, this stuff actually works.
Yeah.
Says it all. Addressing the negative head-on creates safety.
It really does. It taps into that deep need to be understood. And that final story, Ryan B. getting on the sold-out flight, that just wraps it all up beautifully.
Yeah, the chaotic gate scene, the angry couple, the stressed agent, Wendy. How did Ryan use this stuff?
He walked up, smiled, and immediately labeled the negative he saw. Hi, Wendy. It seems like they were pretty upset. Simple acknowledgement. Wendy opened up.
Then he mirrored her.
Yep, the
Yeah.
weather. Then another label. It seems like it's been a hectic day. Built rapport fast. Got more info. Mirrored again. The big game.
And then they ask.
A masterful combo of empathy and labeling. Well, it seems like you've been handling the rough day pretty well. I was also affected. It seems like this flight is likely booked solid, but maybe someone affected by the weather might miss this connection. Is there any possibility a seat will be open?
Label, empathy, label, strategic question. Smooth.
Totally. And bam, Wendy types, prints him a boarding pass. Economy plus even. All in under 2 minutes. It shows how quickly this can work in everyday situations.
So wrapping up Chapter 3, what are the big takeaways for you, for our listeners?
I think the main thing is that these tools, tactical empathy, labeling, mirroring, they aren't some weird trick. They're just dialed up versions of good human interaction. We all like feeling heard, understood, acknowledged, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are just best practices for doing that effectively, especially when things get tense or complicated. It's about making that human connection first. And yeah, the chapter says, go ahead and try it. It might feel awkward at first, like learning to walk, but it's worth practicing.
And those specific reminders.
Right. Imagine their situation, empathy, not agreement. Clear the roadblocks, deal with the negatives first. Pause after a label or mirror, let it sink in. Label their fears to diffuse them. Do an accusation audit for tough talks. And remember, you're talking to a person, use labels to reinforce positives too.
So yeah, this whole deep dive really hammered home how shifting from just feeling pain to strategically labeling emotions, using that tactical empathy, it's not weak. It's actually incredibly powerful for building trust and getting better results.
Definitely. A really insightful chapter. And of course, there's more where that came from in the book.
Oh, for sure. Which is why we're really excited for our next deep dive. We'll be tackling Chapter 4, Beware, Yes, Master, No. We're going to get into commitment, momentum, and how you make it safe for people to show their real cards. Seriously, you won't want to miss it.
Yeah. Should be another great one. Stay tuned.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the next one.